Hello everybody, this is Mr. Po, and today in this video I wanted to talk about anime again. But today I wanted to talk about an issue that we have and that we've been having for quite some time. And I will be talking about the shonen anime issue. Well, first of all, I think that my fellow anime fans absolutely know what shonen anime is, but some of the viewers may not. And those people who would like to know, I will briefly explain you what it is. So we will get down to the topic itself. What is exactly shonen anime? Well, this is the anime which is based on shonen manga. And shonen manga is aimed towards teenagers, boys to be exact. But young adults also enjoy it, though it is not aimed towards them officially. And because of that, there are obviously certain trends in shonen anime that can be found in almost any TV series that you take. And the first one will be adventures. Shonen anime is about adventures of a hero and his friends as they get on the journey. And the context of these adventures is usually historical, or maybe it is inspired by Japanese history and its elements. And heroes usually have some magical powers or are given magical powers. There are elements of Japanese fantasy that are taken from fairy tales, from mythology of Japan, elements of Buddhism, elements of Shinto, etc. So it's almost always fantasy, fantasy context is given. Another element is that the hero needs to save everyone. There is a strong feeling of justice, fight for good, protection of innocent, self-development in this process as a hero, and finally winning in the end. Friendship, becoming friends, turning from enemies to friends, almost always takes place in shonen anime. And there is a slight element of this naive nature to the story, which is paradoxically embedded within realistic and dramatic elements. So these are some specific characteristics of shonen genre, let it be manga or anime, right? Don't get me wrong, guys. I myself enjoy shonen anime and I grew up on some of them. It has been one of the most popular anime genres for decades, and also due to the fact that it is aimed towards the audience that watches the anime most, teenagers, right? But anime is something made in Japan for a wide age audience, the wide genre audience. So the issue is that I wanted to talk about, is there too much of shonen anime right now, today? We have accumulated tons of good series. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Gintama, Inuyasha, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen finally, and many others. And all of those are based on manga, so it is understandable that all of them will be shonen anime. But maybe viewer wants to check out something else. Maybe the viewer wants to enjoy historic anime with less fantasy and more realism. Maybe the viewer enjoys futuristic, cyberpunky Tokyo with aliens and giant robots, space and science fiction and all that. Or maybe he just wants a slice of life anime about simple life of simple grown-up people. You see, before in 1980s and 1990s and even in early 2000s, the number of choice in anime was rather visible. So you could choose shonen anime for one day and a good science fiction anime for another. Today, it feels like there is so much of shonen anime produced and still coming that other genres are getting lost in this. And sometimes watching shonen anime and seeing similar concept, themes, character traits and scenarios becomes basically tiring. So before we continue, let me just exemplify myself what animes I liked personally when I was a teenager and right now. As I have said, I like shonen anime too and enjoy it as well. But to say that shonen is my favorite genre, I will be lying. To tell you a thing, shonen doesn't even represent anime as a whole, because shonen is not a synonym to anime, as though maybe it may seem like this. My favorite types of anime are those that tell stories about grown-up people, and those that have complex stories with complex characters that are not as easy to analyze as shonen characters, even if they are teenagers too. A popular and visible example would be Evangelion. It is not a story that you would recommend to only enjoy. It makes you think and think a lot. Despite being visually colorful, Evangelion is a dark, depressing, sad, complex story with sci-fi, psychological and philosophical elements in it, with characters who do not even connect with each other completely or do not even understand themselves. Another anime which is my all-time favorite is Bubblegum Crisis. Bubblegum Crisis keeps an amazing balance between being dark and depressing and adventurous at certain moments. But to call this anime funny would be absolutely wrong. It is not. It is a pessimistic story set in anti-utopian future where people have to fight every day for their own place. And unlike shonen anime, characters in Bubblegum Crisis are young, but they are not teenagers. They even act and look older than they are because of what they have seen in life. Even dialects and voice acting is dark and harsh. And all of the characters are ladies, which is also important. But these are not ladies that need to be saved, because they themselves can beat your ass. Or let's take another example of how historic context can be put in a different way. Another favorite of mine is Samurai Champloo. It tells a story about the adventures of three people: waitress Fu, hooligan Mugen, and Ronin Jin. These characters are not even likable at first. Maybe Fu is, but Jin is too indifferent, while Mugen acts like a jerk too often, so they can be viewed as anti-heroes. But despite this, you will still follow their adventures because these adventures themselves are so interesting. And you will notice how friendship is developed between these three unlikely friends who connect with each other despite all the circumstances and overcome their inner traumas of the past. There is not pure bad or good in such anime, you know. Everyone has their own motivations, but through this darkness and depression, a viewer can feel that main characters still have the force and strength to do something good, overcoming, you know, everything and fighting for the good. And I think this moment makes watching such anime even more satisfying. It all started with Akira, when people have said, okay, now we can make something serious in anime, right? Now, let's get back to the issue of shonen anime itself. Thinking that only shonen principles work in anime and make it interesting would be incorrect and not objective. Because when these principles are violated, when they are not followed, it becomes, I think, even more exciting, and it makes the story more complex and maybe less obvious, okay? And even if we take shonen manga or anime, this idea works really well. And I will give you a very visible example. Let's take such shonen anime, very popular and influential, like Yu Yu Hakusho, right? So the main character, Yusuke, is not a character that you will instantly like, because he is basically a street juvenile delinquent who always gets into trouble, gets into fights, skips classes, you know, sometimes he is disrespectful, you know, and harsh, comes from dysfunctional family. But still, through the story, through his adventures, you finally find out that actually the guy has a pure heart and can open up to people and be sacrificial. So, you know, that's why I like Yu Yu Hakusho, because it has an initial realistic and somewhat disturbing setting in the first place. And this is a rather dark story, which makes it more exciting, I guess. And it makes you think more, you know. Of course, it has to be said that the animes I mentioned before are original. They were not based on manga. Because when it is based on manga, you have to follow the source. meaning that you have to follow the shonen tropes themselves. If so, I guess we need more original concepts, because it has always been like that. Directors develop their own ideas and storylines, and anime based on that was really popular and successful. What really needs to be done today, in my opinion, is that the industry right now, they need to develop other anime genres to such an extent that they are as visible as shonen anime titles. Because, for example, if a newcomer, somebody who starts watching anime, he goes to the website, right? He goes to the streaming service, and he sees, basically, mostly, he sees shonen titles. Another one, etc. So he has a misconception that all anime series are the same. And that's why we need to do something about other genres. This is very important because it gives a viewer a clear picture of what anime as medium can give. It is very diverse. There is always something for everybody. So, other genres need to be more visible, Maybe other demographic categories of manga should be adapted more, or maybe there should be more sci-fi or other context in manga itself. So, when we talk about the shonen genre, and ideas can be basically eternal. Thinking that in modern era shonen anime is probably the most popular genre because it is made more often is probably true, but other genres, they can be made more popular as well. It just depends on creative teams behind them,